choice made has led to this.
The Clone Wars is finally getting a final season to cap off its original 133 episode run. Now, if you haven't seen Clone Wars, or you just want a refresher, I'm here to sum it all up before season 7. Clone Wars takes place between episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, telling the story of the galactic civil war between the Separatists and the Republic. I can't go over every single story, but I'm going to tell you the essentials and give you some broad strokes about the overall arcs, and tell you a few things that I think are cool that connect to the movies. A major new character is Ahsoka Tano, Anakin's new Padawan. At first, she's headstrong and arrogant.
Run!
What? Jedi don't run!
I said run!
But her introduction into the Jedi Order helps teach us, the audience, about how the Order operates. For instance, in one episode, she's forced to leave Anakin behind after his ship crashes. Another Jedi uses this as a lesson to show why Jedi can't have personal attachments.
Don't lose 1,000 lives just to save one.
Much like her master Anakin, Ahsoka is tempted by romantic attachment. She gets close to Lux Bonteri, a former Separatist who helps Ahsoka liberate his home planet.
Her sacrifice gave Onderon its freedom.
Now, unlike Anakin, she never indulged her feelings and stayed squarely in the friend zone. In one arc, Lux gets close to a woman named Steela, and Ahsoka gets jealous.
Great.
Steela ends up dying in the war, which radicalizes her brother, Saw Gerrera, who's played by Forrest Whitaker in Rogue One. Over the series, Ahsoka evolves into one of the most capable Jedi in Star Wars canon. She even becomes a mentor figure, helping Jedi younglings create their lightsabers and teaching a civics class on Mandalore. And yes, Clone Wars made an episode about a study hall in space, and you're going to love it.
It's every citizen's duty to challenge their leaders, to keep them honest, and hold them accountable if they're not.
She becomes close to Clone Trooper Rex, leader of the 501st Legion. One great thing about this show is that it humanizes the clones, after the movies portrayed them as kind of anonymous drones. We see them train as cadets.
How about we follow orders? This is our last practice test.
Work to inspire their fellow troopers.
Me and my batches are trained and ready. We'll take back our post.
And in one episode, Rex even meets a trooper who deserted the army to raise a family, and they have a whole debate about the merits of fighting someone else's war.
I was just another expendable clone, waiting for my turn to be slaughtered in a war that made no sense to me.
In one brutal arc, these now humanized clones are treated like cannon fodder by a corrupt Jedi general, who's expelled from the Order for war crimes.
I serve no one's side, only my own.
So this series really gets into the trenches of warfare, drawing a lot of inspiration from the Vietnam War. And when a clone dies, it's heartbreaking. Like 99.
How can I help?
Poor 99. Now, like Anakin, Count Dooku also takes on an apprentice, a Force-sensitive assassin named Asajj Ventress.
Jedi scum!
He doesn't make her an official Sith apprentice because there can only be 2 at a time, but she definitely serves the dark side of the Force and fights Jedi on numerous occasions. Now, meanwhile, Anakin's secret marriage to Padme resonates on an emotional level that the films lacked. Ironically, it took an animated series to give depth to live-action characters.
The thought of not being with you, I can't breathe.
What?
You called this home.
What else would I call it?
For instance, Padme has a whole life separate from Anakin, as opposed to the movies, where she's basically treated as a vessel who gives life to the original trilogy's heroes. She works to end the war by having peace talks with the Separatists.
The Republic recognizes the tragedy of war, but there is nothing we can change that has already occurred.
And she works to bring neutral systems into the Republic, such as Mandalore, which we'll go over in just a second. One of the best new characters introduced in the Clone Wars is a bounty hunter named Cad Bane.
I don't work for free.
He was hired by Darth Sidious to kidnap Force-sensitive babies and bring them to Mustafar. Now, I mention this because later the Empire will have a history of acquiring Force-sensitive babies. Just one way this show links to The Mandalorian. And speaking of Mandalore, it's a key location in the Clone Wars. It's a neutral planet that has sworn off violence after war devastated the planet's surface. There's even an episode that focuses on how neutrality means you have to rely on black market goods, which causes some kids to be poisoned by off-brand tea. I love this show. Their leader is Duchess Satine, and back in the day, she and Obi-Wan Kenobi had feelings for each other that they never indulged.
Had you said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order.
So this theme of forbidden love keeps coming up among the Jedi, but Anakin is the only one who actually indulges in these desires. Obi-Wan fights against Death Watch, a Mandalorian terrorist group that wants to make Mandalore violent again. They're led by Pre Vizsla and Satine's own sister, Bo-Katan.
For generations, my ancestors fought proudly as warriors against the Jedi.
Vizsla fights Obi-Wan with a special Mandalorian lightsaber, but he's defeated and takes Death Watch out into exile. Welcome to Intermission of the Clone Wars Recap, where I will quickly mention characters and stories that are great but probably won't matter in Season 7. There's a space pirate named Hondo.
Greetings?
And in one episode that's an homage to the Seven Samurai, the Jedi have to train villagers to fight off his forces. At one point, a kaiju is set loose in Coruscant. On Geonosis, there's an outbreak that turns the bug people into zombies. And there's OT guest stars like Chewbacca, Tarkin, Boba Fett, Admiral Akbar, and Jabba the Hutt. We even meet Jabba's kid, a little huttling named Stinky. Welcome back from intermission. Moving on, Darth Sidious becomes worried about Asajj Ventress because he doesn't want her and Dooku to join forces and overthrow him. So he orders Dooku to kill her, but she survives and swears revenge.
I will have revenge.
Ventress, we discover, is one of the Night Sisters of Dathomir. They're a race of Force witches who swear to help Ventress get revenge on Dooku. But now Dooku is looking for a new apprentice, so he goes to the Night Sisters and says, "Hey, a few years ago, a male from your species became a really powerful Sith, and you got any more guys like him?" And that male, by the way, was Darth Maul. So the head witch, Mother Talzin, says, "Yeah, I got a great one for you. He's Darth Maul's brother, and his name is Savage Opress." Except it's actually pronounced
Savage Opress.
Mother Talzin secretly controls Savage, part of her revenge scheme with Ventress. So Savage tries to kill Dooku. It doesn't go well, but then Mother Talzin gives him a new job, to go find his brother Maul, because it turns out that Darth Maul has been alive all along.
What?
Opress finds Maul, who's been taking a few years off to go batshit crazy.
No! 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 No!
But the Night Sisters sort him out with Force magic, shortly before Dooku kills all of them. R.I.P. Night Sisters. Afterwards, Ventress bums around the galaxy and joins up with Lil Boba Fett and his bounty hunter friends.
This is your boss.
You got a problem with that? My name's Boba.
Darth Maul and his brother Savage want revenge on all the people who did them wrong. You know, these guys. Maul teams up with Death Watch, agreeing to help their leader Pre Vizsla take over Mandalore if he helps Maul get revenge on his enemies.
We can help you reclaim Mandalore.
And punish Kenobi for his trespasses.
So they go on a rampage across the galaxy, attacking gangsters and consolidating their crime syndicates into one organization that Darth Maul controls. They even attack Jabba's palace on Tatooine. The gangsters attack Mandalore, which has basically no army, so Death Watch can show up and save the day. And it works. Vizsla's crowned king or whatever, but then Maul double crosses him and conquers Mandalore for himself. Bo-Katan leads a Death Watch rebellion, Mandalore's plunged into civil war, and Obi-Wan arrives to help his one true love, Duchess Satine. But then, Maul finally gets his revenge, and Satine ends up like that other Satine. Later, Darth Sidious shows up, kills Savage, and tortures his former apprentice. It is intense. As this is happening, there's a bombing at the Jedi Temple. Ahsoka investigates, but she's framed for killing the main suspect of the bombing. She's arrested, escapes from jail, and teams up with Asajj Ventress to prove that she's innocent.
I have to admit, I never saw us doing anything together. Ever.
Then she's expelled from the Jedi Order, but unlike OJ, she finds the real killer. The Jedi Council invites Ahsoka to rejoin the Order, but she's disillusioned and walks away. This experience also makes Anakin suspicious of the Council, an attitude that he will carry into Revenge of the Sith.
Obi-Wan and the Council don't trust me.
Meanwhile, Yoda starts to hear the voice of Qui-Gon Jinn during his meditations, but he knows that's impossible because Qui-Gon is dead and people definitely can't come back from the dead. So he goes on a quest where he faces off against the dark side of himself, kind of like Superman 3, and also fights off the spirits of Dooku and Sidious. Then, 5 Force spirits put Yoda in touch with Qui-Gon so he can teach him how to turn into a Force ghost when he dies. In the end, Yoda concludes that war itself is the true enemy.
No longer certain that one ever does win a war. I am.
Meanwhile, a clone trooper goes rogue and kills a Jedi Master. A trooper named Fives discovers that the trooper had a secret chip in his head, and that chip is what ordered him to kill the Jedi. And then, Fives discovers this chip is in his own head too. Now he's wondering, how deep does this thing go? He becomes paranoid and insists that there's a conspiracy.
You don't understand what I'm mixed up in. It goes all the way to the top.
But before he can tell Anakin and Obi-Wan, he's mysteriously assassinated, because that chip is what tells the clones to kill the Jedi in Order 66. But the Clone Wars is really the story of Anakin Skywalker and his slow descent toward the dark side. He becomes more powerful, but also he cuts corners and begins taking the quick and easy path. And he has this prophecy hanging over his head that he's the chosen one who will bring balance to the Force. In one incredibly weird, sad story, he goes to a planet called Mortis. It's the wellspring of the living Force. He meets three powerful Force beings: the daughter, who uses the good side, the son, who uses the dark side, and their father, who balances them out. The father wants Anakin to replace him as the only being powerful enough to balance his children.
It has been foretold. The Chosen One will remain to keep my children in balance.
The son even shows Anakin his future.
Anakin, please!
You were my brother, Anakin!
Which he forgets. Anakin rejects the father's offer to create balance so he can fight in the war and be with his wife. So instead of embracing his destiny, he was blinded by his love for Padme.
No. No, it's because I'm so in love with you.
So love has blinded you?
Anakin even becomes jealous of Padme's ex, banking clan leader Rush Clovis, who's secretly in Dooku's pocket. Dooku makes him raise interest rates on the Republic, there's an invasion, and Clovis sacrifices himself to save Padme.
No!
This near-death experience shows Anakin that he can't live without her, and would do anything to keep her safe, maybe even massacring a class of preschoolers. Well, that's the broad strokes of the Clone Wars. If I left anything out, please let me know in the comments below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.